Hello and welcome to Rising Matchday at a slightly earlier time this morning, this Saturday the 26th of June. I'm Owain Evans, here to run you through all the major talking points ahead of tonight's Rising game against Sacramento Republic. Coming up on the show. Back from international duty, Kevon Lambert slotted into the midfield last weekend. But what did he have to say about his time in Japan with Jamaica? A spell on the sidelines for Rising Zach Lubin. We get the latest on his recovery after surgery. And a player who scored one of Rising's many goals in that 20-game win streak in 2019. Now he's on the Sacramento back line. Hear the latest from Andrew Wheeler-Omiunu. But first, let's look back to last weekend as Rising took on San Diego Loyal. So a third clash with Loyal this season, albeit the first to be played at Torero Stadium. That ground up to full capacity for the first time. Neither side looking especially threatening through much of the first half, but the host broke the deadlock. Jack Blake with a shot from distance to put his side up 1-0. And not long after the break, again, it's Jack Blake, given some space by the defenders, he hits it from distance and makes them pay. Just not enough pressure on Blake to stop him from taking that chance on, and we'd seen him score from distance before in these sides' last meeting. A few changes made for Rising, and they certainly added a little bit of spark in the form of Arturo Rodriguez. Here, he picks the ball up off a rebound and finishes, giving Rising hope of a comeback. That was Rodriguez's first goal for Rising, and he's still yet to start a match for the club. Rising would have further chances. On the corner here, Kevon Lambert's header not too far away. But it would end in reasonably ugly scenes. In this case, Rising players pleading for a second yellow card for Loyal's Trey Muse after he punts the ball away well after the whistle. It wasn't given, but these kind of confrontations between players and the officials repeated again later on during the closing exchanges. Ultimately, Rising was unable to find the equaliser, so San Diego takes it 2-1 on the night. Here's the post-game reaction from Rising coach Rick Schantz.
Yeah, I think when we gave up the second goal, we made, we made three changes immediately. We changed our approach a little bit, and I think at that point, San Diego was, they were content with 2-0, and they gave the game to us. So for us to get the goal was huge. I'm a little disappointed at about 80 to 90 we stopped playing. We just started kind of hoofing it in the box, and that's not who we are. We I think we got kind of lost our minds a little bit. You know, we got caught up with trying to get behind them in a direct fashion, and we couldn't find the second goal. There was nothing going wrong. They scored two worldies. I mean, the first one was the first time that both Kev and Aiden got switched on sides, and I think Blake got in behind Kev, and then he smashes the ball in the side net. You know, we had already talked about that space, but I thought we really nullified them and kind of shut it down early. But that's what happens, you know. We have to keep our cool. I mean, when teams start to behave like that, you know, when former players are you know, just being ridiculous on the field, the faking of the injuries and the falling down, like four players went after Arturo there at the end in a tackle, like vicious. And then they managed to somehow, two of them get hurt when Arturo flies out of bounds. So I think the referee was taken advantage of. I mentioned it to him. I said, man, you got to be strong. You know, in that moment, you have to tell them that the more they do this, the more we're going to play.
So you just weren't impressed then with San Diego's antics at the end?
No, that's unprofessional.
So a disappointing trip for Rising in the end. They come out of it empty-handed. That's in spite of having 20 shots to Loyal's 6. Numerous figures in the Rising camp going on to point the finger at lapses of concentration from the Phoenix side, with Jack Blake being given just far too much time and space on the ball. After the match, it was certainly no secret just how hard Loyal was celebrating getting that win, including in the locker room. But what kind of motivation is Rising taking from that?
We're so used to it. Every time we tie or lose a game, the other team has won it's a cup final for them. And the problem is we have to stop saying that. And we have to stop saying, oh, it's a big game for them. And we better start waking up and realizing that every game is a cup final for them. It should be a cup final for us. And if we play with that same intensity and that same focus and desire, we're good enough to beat anyone in this league.
Well, one notable change on the weekend from previous games, the return of Kevon Lambert, a key face in the midfield. He'd been away on international duty with the Jamaican national team. Earlier this week, we caught up with Kev to talk about his time away in Japan and his return back to Rising.
It was pretty good. Always a good time to get back with the guys, spend some time going to camp and get ready for the tournaments. That was our main task. So it was really good being there.
What kind of lessons do you think you learned ahead of the Gold Cup?
I think for me, I personally learned that we got to adjust quicker. And we got like a lot of new players, so we haven't been practicing a lot, so we gotta learn how to cope with everything and adjust and just get used to everyone much quicker so that we can like build a quicker chemistry together, so we will be like better in the tournament.
How bad was the jet lag then?
It was kind of tough. I kind of got over it after the few days after, but I think it was crazy, to be honest. But the guys here, they helped me to recover pretty fast. Got in like some massages and stuff like that, so it wasn't bad after a few days.
Rick mentioned that you landed Sunday and then trained that following day. I mean, I've never done that before, obviously, but I mean, what is that like? You flew across the entire world, and the next day you just started training again.
I mean, while I was even over there, I missed the guys. I missed being around the guys, so I didn't really want to stay away for much longer. So I really wanted to get back to work and be with the guys. So that's really what I wanted to do.
Another player that's been absent in the Rising squad this season, Zach Lubin, who hasn't been able to play a single minute after undergoing back surgery. But how's his recovery coming along? Here's the latest from Zach. So then, can you just give us the rundown of how the recovery's going?
You know, really well. I mean, to me, we have one of the best spine doctors, you know, fortunate as an owner. They got me in quick and took care of me to get me back on the field. And then obviously, like, our partnerships with Spooner. I'm in PT every day. I get to still be out here with the guys. And it's going really, really smoothly. I couldn't really ask for much better. Like, everyone's taking care of me and getting me back as soon as possible. They're trying to slow me down. Well, I need to be slowed down a little bit, so it's going well.
So what does the timetable look like for your return now?
You know, hopefully just getting back into training August sometime. You know, we have Ben, we have Rawls. They're doing incredible. You know, it's going to be tough to come back in and compete with them, but that's the goal, and I'm excited for the challenge. But, you know, first things first, making sure we're fit, healthy. You know, it's a surgery that if you do it right, 90% of athletes come back pain-free, no further injuries for the rest of their life. And so it's like something it's a tough, you really got to manage it and just take care of it and do it right the first time.
Zach, how is it being controlling the anxiety of being outside of the game and being on the stands, basically watching the game?
It's different. This is my first time in my career to have surgery in the middle of a season, to be sitting out any significant time. It's a different role, different responsibility. Almost sitting back and learning a lot. Like, I sit and watch goalkeeper training, and I think I'm ingesting a lot, looking at it from a little different perspective, and hopefully in that way I can continue to grow my game and get better and take advantage of, the moment of getting physically better but sharpening the mind.
How hard was it, emotionally getting the news that you'd need surgery right before the season?
Man, I tell you what, it was like the same day we came out here and saw the stadium done for the first time. We had our first training session on it. I don't think I've ever been on a more perfect pitch in my life. Feeling like I'm stepping out there, it's like, holy, this is a Premier League pitch. And to not be able to train and play in that moment and then sit here and know what this stadium is going to be like on opening night, that was the hardest part. I was okay with getting surgery. Long, tall athlete, as goalkeepers, we put ourselves in such vulnerable positions all the time. That it was like, okay, I'm 31 years old and I've never really had surgery, never had time to knock me out. And so it was just like, I've been very fortunate. But the moment we stepped out here for the first time, that's when it really hurt. I mean, since day one, when I was coming in 2017 or 2018, after 2017 season, he vets his goalkeepers. He's not just we probably had an opportunity to get some incredible goalkeepers at the top of their game, but if they're not the right personality, the right fit, have the right work ethic and mentality, he's not going to bring them in. And that's what I think has made our goalkeeping group so successful, from Carl to me to these guys now, is that consistency in Corey and having a group that really works well together. You hear about clubs where goalkeepers don't get along and they don't train well together, and ultimately you're never really getting better, but that would never stand here, and that's what makes this group so good.
I mean, you've got to be pretty restless. Has Brenna had enough of you yet?
Yeah, seriously. Well, weekends, she's like, usually I get some time to myself. We both like that, we travel, and it helps you, you miss each other, and now we're always on the weekend. She's like, you need to go. I need some time for sure. But that's right. Go do some extra PT, go to the gym, give her some space.
Well, let's take a look now around the rest of the Pacific Division. We'll start in Vegas, where Orange County travel to face an in-form Lights team. And the host struck first, a poorly placed pass in the midfield, giving the ball away to Vegas' Danny Masovsky. He in turn found Roberto Molina, who duly buried to make it 1-0. Shortly into the second half though, Orange County brought it level. Kevin Alston's long throw not dealt with, allowing Ronaldo Damas to find the net. Just minutes later, and again it's Alston to Damas, a cross this time, which finds him perfectly on the head. 2-1 Orange County. Rounding things out, yet another long throw, this time from substitute Brent Richards. This one headed in by Rob Kiernan, setting the scores up at 3-1 to Orange County, and that's how this one would finish. Moving on to a midweek clash, Tacoma Defiance hosting Real Monarchs at Cheney Stadium. The visitors getting on the board first, Malik Johnson with a stunning strike from distance to give the 2019 champions their lead. Almost a full game later, you'd have been forgiven for assuming Monarchs had done just enough to seal all the spoils. But with the clock approaching 90, their failure to clear their lines opened up an opportunity for Samuel Adeniran to equalise for Tacoma, that game finishing 1-1. The same evening, LA Galaxy 2 hosting Orange County, and much like that last match, the visitors score first and early at that. Ronaldo Damas getting on the end of a mishit shot by his teammate. He was able to hit it cleanly at least, and Orange County up 1-0. But just around 5 minutes later, Jorge Hernandez slipping the ball through beautifully for Preston Judd, who delivers with the finish. 1-1 early on, but that's how it'd stay, both sides sharing the spoils. One last game this week, taking place last night, Vegas hosting San Diego at Cashman Field. An early start for the visitors, Alejandro Guido pouncing on a poorly placed pass, and he makes no mistake with the finish. After inviting the fans onto the pitch at half-time to partake in a water balloon fight, Vegas found their way back into the game. The corner isn't dealt with, bounces off the crossbar, unclear if Marvin Gamez or the defender get the credit on that one. But the level scores were short-lived. Alex Rando pulled off a spectacular save on Corey Herzog's effort there, but Miguel Berry was on hand to tuck it away. 2-1 San Diego, and that's how it would finish. So let's take a look at the table now. Rising remain on top, but see their lead cut to just 2 points. Orange County breathing down their necks. So too San Diego Loyal, but having played 2 games more and with a negative goal difference. Los Dos take up the last playoff spot, 4 points clear of Tacoma, who have 3 games in hand over them. Sacramento and Vegas in 6th and 7th. Oakland propping up the table, but they've only managed 4 games to date. So just one other game this evening involving a Pacific Division side, Oakland Roots hosting Austin Bold at 7:30. Los Dos travelling up to Tacoma for a game tomorrow, and that one a 1:30 kickoff. While San Diego hosting Oakland on Tuesday, Orange County travelling to Colorado Springs on Thursday. Well, one other game that was supposed to take place last week, Oakland Roots hosting Sacramento Republic. That was to be Roots' first home game in USL. Didn't quite turn out that way though, after complaints from the Sacramento players, both match and league officials ruling the playing surface unplayable. As you can see, it was just a patchwork of artificial turf, stitched together and placed over an American football field and running track. Earlier this week I caught up with Sacramento Republic's Andrew Wheeler-Omiunu. Here are his words on last week's postponement.
I can't sit here and speak negatively about any like organizational things or anything like that. I can only speak from a perspective as a player, a perspective of a player in a very competitive league in the year 2021 in a sport that is continuing to grow in this country. And as a player, with all those factors considered, it was disappointing because you feel like you're past that, given all the things that I mentioned. You feel like, the safety or the playability, if you will, of a field should not even be not even an afterthought that comes into your mind. It should never come into, not even to your subconscious. So it's disappointing in that regard. I don't think there was any malintent behind it by anybody. It's just, hopefully whoever makes the decisions of that stuff makes better decisions in the future. Like, they take information, they learn from it, and going forward those won't be problems anywhere, not just in the one place that we were, but anywhere. So yeah, it was just disappointing to like get up for a game and then get there and then try to get, not get down, but like mentally try like dealing with how it all played out. It was a situation that was unfamiliar to everybody. So I think we're all just trying to figure it out psychologically how to go about our day leading up to it, and then our day coming down from it after the decision was made.
So did it maybe set a bit of a weird tone for training at the start of the week then after it?
Honestly, no, it didn't. It set a weird tone for the bus ride home. Because nobody was happy. We wanted to play. And that I think that was the only thing. Like, honestly, it kind of like, it didn't set a weird tone. It kind of like kicked us into gear a little bit at the start of this week, because now it's been quite a layoff from our last game until Saturday, this coming Saturday. I think it's been like 2.5 weeks. So we just wanted to play. So it was just like kind of like on the bus ride home, people are like, well, we're not happy, but we're also really grateful that nobody tore any ligaments, which is always a positive when you're playing a sport. So yeah, we like, it didn't set a weird tone for training. Like I said, we're all just excited to be able to play and get back on the field this Saturday.
Well, Andrew, a former Rising player himself, he was contracted to Tucson but did play 6 games for Phoenix in 2019. Earlier this week, I caught up with him to talk about his time here and if it adds any extra motivation coming up against one of his former clubs.
So this week again, you're coming up against a club that you played for before, didn't really crack into the squad. For you personally, does that give you a bit of added motivation?
No, not really. I have a lot of gratitude towards the Phoenix organization, Phoenix Rising organization, but also, FC Tucson, because yes, I was fortunate enough to be called up from FC Tucson to play with Phoenix, but at the time, like, Tucson was the affiliate of Phoenix, but I was an FC Tucson player, and so Phoenix was wonderful in making me feel like a part of the squad, and I certainly did in my time there. And like I said, I'm grateful to the players there, the coaching staff there for doing that. But having not really been like this super important cog in the system of Phoenix Rising, I can't really say that I have any like motivation to be like, let me go get one back on them. It's just it's another game that I'm grateful to be with my team now and trying to solve problems and trying to push forward to get good results. So I'm really more focused on what I can do to help my team more so than what I can do to get back at a team that I was fortunate enough to have been a part of in the past.
So what are your biggest memories then from your time in Arizona?
The heat. The heat, standing on the tents in the middle of training with some ice rags around my neck. In Arizona, in general, it was a very interesting year for me. I was going back and forth a lot between the two squads. So again, like, I was just grateful for the opportunities that were given to me, regardless of the squad that I was on. And again, because Tucson was part of that Phoenix Rising organization at the time, I'm ultimately grateful to the Phoenix Rising organization. But my fondest memories, let's just go with my time, like while I was in Phoenix, it's the players. They have quality players. I respect their players a lot. And I'm grateful to have ended up in a place in Sacramento that also has a lot of quality players and a lot of players, all the players I respect ability on the field and people who they are as people off the field. And it was a similar sentiment that I would share for my time in Phoenix. So yeah, it's just being grateful to be able to be around quality players that always, we play this game for that reason, to compete at the highest level that we can. And between Phoenix and Sacramento, those are two high quality places in terms of ability for players. So.
And how far do you think that you've progressed since leaving Arizona in terms of your development?
Well, I still think I'm moving in positive directions. I think about that. That's a good question. Like, I think about that stuff all the time. And I think whenever soccer ends for me, it'll probably because nobody wants to give me a contract anymore, which, that's just usual. That's typically how it ends for a lot of people. But also, I think it'll be the right time because I'll feel like I'm not getting better. And my goal is to always get better. So yeah, like where I am along the spectrum of development since I've left Phoenix, I have no clue, but I do feel like I've gotten better. I couldn't really quantify it for you, but I'm grateful for what I learned there, and I'm grateful for what I've been able to learn here, and continue to try to implement those things incrementally in my game.
Not the best run of form for Republic coming into this one. They've picked up just 1 point in their last 5 games, and that's seen them drop out of the playoff places. So what's behind that poor run of form?
I think it just comes down to being able to execute a game plan better. And again, every game we play, we take positives from it, and we try to leave the negatives behind. And sometimes we'll have a negative that comes back in from a few games ago that we thought we got rid of. But I can say with confidence that every game we've been able to add positives. And so that's the thing that like makes me proud, and it makes me optimistic for our continued improvement. It's that we're not regressing. We're continuing to move forward. But yeah, ultimately, it's just a matter of like executing on the field and being tuned in for a whole 90 minutes. I think that's what it is for us.
And finally, with Rising getting the result up in Sacramento last time, what does that change in terms of game planning for this one?
Sometimes you look at the team that you went up there and you did well, and you look at the game plan and you think, okay, this is going to work again. But then if you're naive and you don't think that their coach isn't going to do something about it. So the way I treat our team is every week we compete, and the best players that week will play. The guys that are in the best form will play. We got to play them 4 times. So if I keep looking at one performance on when we won and keep playing the same lineup, I think we find ourselves in trouble. And the guys know that we have to make changes at some point, and they're going to keep competing with one another and push each other to be better. That's the best thing about this team and this locker room is if one guy doesn't get to start or he gets dropped out of the 18, they don't turn on each other. They're very supportive.
Well, that's all we have time for here today. Tonight's match, an 8 p.m. kickoff at Heart Health Park, live locally on the CW and on ESPN+. Enjoy the match. Goodbye.